because if, there are certain skills like woodworking skills, metalworking skills, or any kind of skills that we can employ the community members to produce whatever is needed for the building locally, not only because of the ecological footprint, but also to bring jobs. And maybe, there needs to be a little bit more of skills training, but then that's a skill that people in the community have, and it's not just pertaining to this specific building, but it's something that they can use in the future. And that's really important, and I think that, it's also important to have that in the U.S., like Susan was saying, because we're losing that.
Definitely. Well, it's like everything feeds back into the community by doing good this way. So, well, our next question is in a bit of 3 parts. First off, how do these projects come to fruition? What channel do architects go through to find out about these types of projects, and how are specific projects selected? And lastly, what makes one more appropriate than the other? Barb, you're obviously very involved in this, so if you'd like to start off with that.
Yeah, well, from our perspective, usually, there's a huge need out there, so we're never short of projects that people come to us with. And usually, I guess I'm going to outline the different ways in which Architecture for Humanity gets involved. One of it is through a competition that we do every other year called the Open Architecture Challenge, where we address an issue that we're seeing in the built environment that is kind of universal, and that we feel like it needs to be addressed. So we do that through a competition. Sometimes we get approached by corporate social responsibility branches of corporations that are looking to, give back to their communities and do something good. A lot of times we're approached by individuals or foundations that have a project that they have in mind, and they have the funding, but they don't have the expertise. We get a lot of requests online, and some of them, are not as easy to respond to, but some of them are. So we kind of vet those, and if there are certain requirements that are met, we can look into working with them. And then the other one, the big one, is disasters, and we don't choose when and how this happen or where, but we assess whether we are able to respond, and if we have contacts locally that we can rely on, and community organizations that we know that we feel comfortable responding in those areas.
I'd like to add to that. I think it's really interesting to see how the architecture community tends to respond to disasters, and it's still a lot of it, except for Architecture for Humanity. It's still a lot of it the old way. Well, we're going to come in and we fix it. And I think the fact that that is not the answer. The answer is to try to find out, as Architecture for Humanity does, local needs and local communities and get involved with them. But I also think that architects, even though they may be involved in global work, are creatures of their own localities, their own towns, their own areas, their own communities, churches, whatever organizations that they belong to. And there is always a discussion of what's needed, what's necessary, who needs, what neighborhood needs some upgrading. So there is, they are part of the communal discussion about what's going on in their little towns, big town, neighborhood, wherever they're involved. And I think that in the busier days, they probably said, yeah, that sounds really good and I could do something about it. But now I think they probably have the time to get involved more with some of these projects. So, and really listen and offer skills, if nothing else but consulting skills of what could be done, what they could do for the money that they have. So I think a lot of architects do that anyway, but I think it might be interesting to redouble those efforts and just get to know the community's needs and the local lay of the land, so that you know more about what's going on, so that you can hook up with people who actually could use your services. So I think we can't forget this sort of local aspect of all of this.
Yeah, I think Susan is absolutely right, and I think sometimes, you know, people are so eager to respond that they don't look at the big picture and the future. You know, and sometimes there are disasters we don't respond to because we don't know anybody locally, or there are other reasons where we think, you know, we're not going to be able to be involved for the long term. And usually when you respond to a disaster situation, because we want to be involved in the long term rebuilding, if we can't be there for at least 5 years, then we can't really consider responding. So I think that that's important too, to have that local connection.
Good point on local. So that obviously is something that will drive it more. I mean, it sounds like too that, you know, with architects having more time to donate to this or give to this, that it's very rewarding, and hopefully they can stay focused on this as things improve throughout the next couple of years. So because it's so strong on building communities and so forth. So so let's move on to the next question. Susan, I'll begin with you. What are the things that are most important in humanitarian design that are not often encountered in traditional planning?
Well, I think we kind of covered the basics, which is getting the clients involved instead of coming in with a solution. That is more of a practice. So I think the idea that design is a response to a real problem of real people, and kind of working with those people's needs and working with their resources, which is very interesting to me, because you know, you can go into a poor community and you can come in as an outside designer who might be living in a better life than they are, and you can say, well, they, you know, what can I do here? They have nothing. And then you realize that they have enormous resources. They have connections. They have they know people. They have skills. So this idea of kind of, you know, getting down to the grassroots, person by person and personality by personality, and getting to know them is key to all of this. This is not something that that used to be called humanitarian design, where you come in and fix. This is something that you do together, and I think that is broadly growing tendency that I see happening more and more, which is very encouraging, because everybody benefits from that.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, in a way, one of the things I can think that something that's not often encountered is that it sometimes takes longer to do this kind of work, because you really need to hold lots of meetings with community members and make sure that they're all agreeing on, you know, what's going to be done, and you know, do community design charrettes and figure all that stuff out. And sometimes, you know, you come in with a great idea, but if the whole community is like, no, that's not what we want, because that's not going to work, then you're back to the drawing board.
That's true.
And you know, I think that that, you know, a lot of times, for example, in our project, like Susan was saying, there are a lot of skills. So use those skills and use that knowledge. A lot of times I feel like we want to go into other communities and say, well, we have this great new solar technology and we should incorporate that and use it. But maybe they have something that they've been using that has been passed on from generation to generation that's very low tech but equally as effective, that can be used, and it's something that they're already familiar with. Because a lot of times you see buildings where, you know, they get decked out state-of-the-art machines, and then they're in technology, and then, you know, if the community members don't know how to use them, they don't know how to maintain them, then you're going to see, you know, in a few years that they're going to be abandoned in the corner, and they're going to create their own other systems to keep the building running.
Well, there's another issue here which is really interesting to me, is that the mutual benefits are really interesting, and they go far and wide. I mean, if you become a really good listener and analyzer and can give fair, good assessment, that could help you in your marriage, in your relationship with your kids, with your coworkers. I mean, it's not. It's a skill. You know, everybody thinks that it can be done. That is the hardest thing to be doing. I mean, it's really hard to communicate with other people if you haven't developed those skills. And I think designers are really good at communicating. I mean, they're very personable. They're open. They're smart. They look good. They're really
all good points.
All those things. They really have a lot of great stuff going for them. And I think and the other part of this is, which is it's even more interesting to me, is that in those communities you have a lot of children who are trying to kind of figure out where they should be going and what they should be doing, and this could be one of their only introductions to an architect or a designer and what an architect does. And I can tell you that we need some future architects from those communities, and I think to add to the mix. And I think that's another benefit that goes way beyond you know, just doing good.
That's a great benefit. That's very true. Definitely working together and listening, understanding is very important. And I would think each time when you start a new project within these, that it would be something that's, you know, a big learning experience, because you start from, you know, right at the beginning of what the needs are. So it's always a good challenge. And Barb, would you say that that the product criteria for these projects is more or less strict?
You know, I think it really varies with
Mm-hmm.
the project and the community, and also, you know, sometimes we're building a one-room training center, for example. Sometimes we're doing a whole school campus. So I think it really varies. I don't think one size fits all, definitely not. And it's also, you know, sometimes community members are more involved than other times, so you have to take that into consideration too. When sometimes you really want more input, you know, maybe they're not as interested, so it just varies.
That's true. Well, I guess that could lead me to the next question, which is a little bit more specific to sustainable products. Do architects and designers expect manufacturers to have sustainable products, or is that still a commodity? And if sustainability is an expectation, what kind of messages do you want to hear from them, or are, you know, you're tired of hearing about?
I can
go ahead,
begin to answer that. Yeah, I think from what I see, and I travel to a lot of architecture offices these days and watch them and listen to them and hear what they're working on. And my perception is that sustainability is at the core of all projects today. The LEED system has really pushed things along, and the consciousness of architects and designers about the environment is at the highest level it's ever been, and this is a question that they ask, and if they don't ask, their clients ask. So it's not a commodity. It's a culture. It's a way of life. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of including information in your design work that you hadn't included before. So yes, it's an expectation. And the message that you don't want to hear is greenwashing. The message that you don't that you can see right through when somebody says they're sustainable, or somebody says a product is LEED rated. No products are LEED rated. There's no such thing. So I think they might pass the recyclability test and all of that if they have recycled content. But I think you really have to be, as a manufacturer, you have to be very honest. You have to say where you are exactly with this product, what it does, what your sort of sustainability ideas about your firm are. Where do you want to go? How do you want to grow? This is a growth area. This is a growing market for products. And I think the more real information you put out there, the better for everyone. So it's not about being green just to be green, but really giving information about fiber content, about recyclability, about maintainability, about where it's made, how it's shipped, how far it's